Hey, hockey fans, welcome to Goal Line Hockey. As today we're going to continue the playoff prediction series as we take a look at the Metropolitan Division winning Washington Capitals as they take on the first wild card, Carolina Hurricanes. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and to subscribe, and make sure to check out our other playoff prediction series videos. So looking at the head-to-head matchup this season between the Carolina Hurricanes and the Washington Capitals. So played a couple. It took them a little while to see each other mid-season. The first meeting was December 14th. The Washington Capitals won that game in a barn burner, 6-5 shootout victory. Later that month, after the holidays, they would meet again. Washington would win that one 3-1. The end of March, they had a back-to-back. Washington won 4-1 in the first one, and Carolina failed to get revenge in the second one. Washington winning that one 3-2. So the season series went to the Capitals 4-0. They swept the Carolina Hurricanes in the season series for the 2018-2019 season. I believe that does have a little bit of a factor into the way the playoffs look, especially that head-to-head at the end of the season, at the end of March. I think that's going to be a determining factor a factor to look at in terms of the predictions for this series. All right, so the positional battle between these two hockey teams. Forwards, I got the Capitals winning this one. Any team with Alexander Ovechkin that's a huge edge. And you look at the depth they've got. They've got Nick Backstrom, Evgeny Kuznetsov, Tom Wilson, Jacob Vrana, who's come up on the scene this year. So they've got some really good guys in Washington, and that top six is definitely better than the Carolina Hurricanes' top six. No discredit to them, but they've got guys like Michael Furland and Sebastian Aho, who's been an unbelievable story for the Hurricanes. Really meeting expectations as Aho, leading the way for the Hurricanes. Real big player for the Hurricanes in the future as well. We've seen guys like Andrei Svechnikov, who was kind of buried in the bottom six for most of the season. Ron Brundamore was forced to bring him up later in the season to the top line with Aho, and we've seen some real wonders since then. So now Svechnikov, 20 goal season for him. So real good season for the Hurricanes. They've got some real good goal scorers there, and we'll see what happens with that. But the edge definitely goes to the Capitals. Looking at defense, kind of the same story here. Is Washington gets my vote for that. Again, you got one really good defenseman. That's John Carlson. I really like John Carlson, but the toss-up between these two teams is pretty close, but I got Washington because of Carlson. He is really the big guy there. We saw what he did for the team last season in the Stanley Cup playoffs, how much he stepped up for the Caps, how much they needed him, and he was a big minute eater for the Capitals on the back end. Look at some of the young guys that have kind of come up. They've got some good depth there because you saw them trade a guy out like Madison Bowie at the deadline, so they were willing to trade out some defensemen. They bring in Nick Jensen, who they recently signed. He may be the new Michael Kempny for this team. And speaking of Kempny, he is likely to miss the first round of the series, which is kind of a major factor for this team, considering they've lost a couple defensemen over the years. So that's a tough loss for the Caps, but Nick Jensen should be able to help out there. You've obviously still got guys like Brooks Orpik, Matt Niskanen, so definitely a good back end for the Washington Capitals. In terms of Carolina, look at some guys like Dougie Hamilton, Calvin DeHaan, who I really liked. So some good defensemen there, Justin Falk. So they've got guys on that back end, and I think really it comes down to John Carlson. He is really, above and beyond, and I think that's a huge factor for the Washington Capitals. Now, looking at goaltending, again, you can't bet against Braden Holtby, as I would say we've seen Phoenix Copley, the backup, play a little bit more here down the stretch, and he's looked pretty good. But this isn't a goalie tandem matchup. I would maybe give the goalie tandem matchup to the Carolina Hurricanes with McElhinney and Mrazek, but this is a playoff series. You're probably going to go with your best goaltender for all those games, day by day. So Mrazek to Holtby is who I would go with for the Hurricanes. More than likely, Peter Mrazek. He's been playing more recently. So it's going to likely be Mrazek and Holtby, and you got to give the edge to Braden Holtby based off of what he's done in the past. And Mrazek has had a miraculous season, and so you catch that. So, but I just don't think it's good enough compared to what we've seen Holtby do. He is going to be a real tough goaltender to beat, and I think that's going to be a huge factor for the Capitals in this series. All right, so looking at my predictions for this series between the Washington Capitals and the Carolina Hurricanes, I have the Washington Capitals winning this series in 5 games. I originally had this at 6 games, but I'm going to go with 5. And looking at this team, I love some of the guys that Carolina has. I would argue that their bottom 6 is better than the Capitals' bottom 6 with guys like Warren Foegele, and I think those have been really nice stories for the Hurricanes. But Jordan Martinook, but I really like the Capitals, and I think the biggest issue is the goaltending, and Peter Mrazek, I really want to believe in him. He's a really good goaltender. I think he'll be able to steal a game, but I think that's all he's got in the tank. I think Washington's offense is way too potent with Oshie, Backstrom, Ovechkin, Verana, Wilson. It's unbelievable how good that offensive core is in Washington, and it's going to be tough to keep all those guys off the score sheet. Andre Burakovsky, who really hasn't played that well, but he's still in the lineup there for the Caps. So really it comes down to, Carolina needs to be able to keep up with the Capitals' intensity. We know what playoff Ovechkin is like, a guy that, I saw at the end of the season when they played the Canadiens, barreled into Brendan Gallagher, threw him right into Kuznetsov along by the penalty box. But Ovechkin and Wilson are going to be huge factors for the Caps. They're kind of grinder-like players. We've seen the Hurricanes become more of one of those teams. They've always been a really skilled European guy team, but they've kind of changed the culture there, especially with Rod Brendamore, with guys like Michael Furland and Jordan Martinook and Warren Foegele. It's a little bit more of a team that is able to, say, rough things up. So it might be a better matchup for the Carolina Hurricanes than some people are giving them credit for. If they had to go up against a team like Tampa, I think it would be definitely a lot harder, which most teams you would, but have a hard time with the Tampa Bay Lightning. But this is something that Carolina is going to, they're ending the storm surge, whatever. They're getting ready for the playoffs, but Justin Williams is going to be a big factor if he can get going. We know what he's able to do, miss a Game 7. I don't have them going to 7 games here, but maybe he becomes a Mr. Game 5, 6, 7 and is able to drag the series out. But we'll see what happens. Is division.How ready for the Stanley Cup playoffs? This is his first playoff run, so how is he going to handle the playoffs? So tell me why I'm wrong. Tell me why I'm right. Who do you have winning this series between the Washington Capitals and the Carolina Hurricanes? Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and to subscribe. And make sure to check out our other playoff prediction videos for the first round. And everybody, best of luck to your playoff brackets in the first round.